I'm Olivia Clarke, editor of the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin and Chicago Lawyer Magazine, and we're here today with the Inside Out columnists Tina Martini and David Susler, and we're talking about globalization. Hi, guys.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So is it, can a firm be too big or too global?
I actually think a firm can be too big and too global, and in order to figure that out, you really have to look at what the nature of the firm's business is, who their clients are, where their clients are, what locations the firm has in terms of geography, and what the specializations and practice areas are in those different locations. I think just from a theoretical perspective, given where technology is, given where business is, everything is global and can reach pretty much any part of the world. But in terms of a particular firm, I think they can be too big if they don't have the business, if they don't have the strategy and the client base to justify being a global firm. But if you have the right clientele, and if you have needs and you've got the right people on the ground in particular areas, I don't think that that type of a firm that has a strategy in place and there are needs that they're serving their clients both from a legal as well as a business perspective, then I don't think a firm can be too big.
Yeah, I would agree. If a firm, as long as a firm really follows its clients and its business and has a strategic plan and follows it, I think they can succeed and they will become as large and as global as they need to be. And I'm thinking in terms of a physical presence around the globe. And the firms that have succeeded have done that. There are firms who have just opened offices around the world for the sake of saying we're global, and those firms don't succeed.
The business really needs to drive the firm, and sometimes it's a chicken and egg sort of a thing. But if you have a compelling business need in particular jurisdictions, needs both geographically as well as substantively, then I think that is the healthier approach for growth.
Mm-hmm. And so how can a lawyer be successful in a global firm? What are some skills that they should possess to really, make the most out of that experience?
Well, you're the global firm lawyer.
Well, I think that there are several layers of answers to that question. First, I think they have to just be a great lawyer in whatever subject matter they decide to practice in. I think that's very important. They need to be the quintessential team player in terms of being able to work not only with their practice group, but also being able to work with others across different practice areas, both within their office as well as in other offices. I think it's very important that when they work with clients, that they think not only about how they can serve their clients in that particular area where they have the specialization, but they also think of ways that the firm can deliver services both from a geographic perspective as well as a substantive perspective across the different regions that the firm has a presence in. I think it's really trying to look holistically at a client's needs rather than just looking at what exactly that particular lawyer is good at. I think that's really the key to success in a global firm.
Yeah, and I can't really speak to success for inside of a law firm, but if you're talking about a global in-house attorney, global in-house department, if you're in a large law department with a large company that has international offices, I think the keys to success are probably the same. And you're going to be in a department that's more specialized, so you've got to have new lawyers in the area, and they've got to be familiar with the country and the culture and the laws and everything Tina said. For a small law department like mine, for example, we do business all over the world. You have to have a similar skill set, but then the specialization isn't going to run as deep. So that's what I'm going to go to outside counsel. But you still have to have an essential skill set, and a lot of that would include emotional intelligence and the ability to work with people of different cultures, as well as the ability to learn what you need to know about the law in that country to get the business flowing. And again, when you need the specialization, I would go to outside counsel.
Well, how do you create that intimate relationship with a client in a global firm? How do you make sure they understand that they're important and you're tied to even their local roots or their local the local city that they're part of?
Well, what I do is it's really, the key is relationships, and really getting close to your clients and really seeing them as people and really understanding where they're coming from, what their concerns are, what drives their particular business, where the potential weaknesses or concerns may be. And once you really get inside the head of your client, then I think it starts conversations. It isn't just about an arm's length sort of a business where I'm doing a transaction for you, you're paying me for it. It's more of a, you're a person, you're a friend, I would like to help you. Let's kind of peel back the onion, so to speak, in terms of what your business is and where the needs are. And because a lot of businesses are global in scope, or at least international, and have needs outside the US, and those needs often go into a bunch of different practice areas, I think it's a relatively easy conversation to have if you're talking to someone who has needs that extend outside the US, and they don't necessarily have to be covering the globe in terms of their business. I think that any company that has some sort of a presence outside of the US could tap into the experiences and the specialties and the talents of a global firm. But it's really just recognizing that the relationship part of it is really the critical way to get the conversation going, and having a conversation rather than a more formalistic approach.
Yeah, it's all about the relationship, and especially in a lot of the rest of the world, to cement that relationship at the outset especially, you need to go there and meet with them in person. You need to get on a plane and meet with them in person. And you may only do that once, but it's critical at the outset. And then the rest of the time, you know, maybe by telephone, by telepresence, video conference, but you need to establish the personal connection.
And being there, I think being there through thick and thin, making yourself available, letting them understand that it's not going to be every time that they call you, the clock is running. I think that there's something that's very connecting when people know that if they're in a moment of crisis, that, you know, whether it's over a weekend or whether it's in the middle of the night, when you're on vacation, that you're willing to make yourself available. I think that that means the world to people, and they know you're willing to go the extra mile.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, in terms of building a successful relationship and being a successful international lawyer. You have to know, not only have to know your client or the lawyers, but you have to know how they practice. Some countries, for example, they don't work on billable hours. The lawyers, historically, they're just, you know, fixed fee, or, you know, it's not billable hours, so they wouldn't expect to pick up the phone and be billed. Mm-hmm. And there are seemingly little details like that that can make the difference between a successful relationship and an unsuccessful one.
Great. Well, thank you both very much.
Thank
you.
Thanks.